started working with some of the parent companies of ProFarm over a decade ago. So Pam Marone started a company called Marone BioInnovations out in Davis, California. And we went out there and started working with some of the fungicides, the biological fungicides that she had invented, and found some really good use for them in our commercial fungicide programs. And then we were working with Rhizobacter a little bit, buying some soybean inoculant from them. They're one of the world's largest soybean inoculant manufacturers in Argentina. And we found these two companies. We didn't know that someday they would come together to create a new company, but the thing we like about the products is that the products have stayed the same. They haven't just stayed the same, they've actually gotten better. So if you think about Regalia, and now we have it as Case Center, we think it's a better formulation, the same active ingredient, same consistent fungicidal activity that we've seen with Regalia, we see out of Pace Setter. And they got a product called Magistine they're going to talk about. The new version of that's called Neovo. So really exciting products that can be used in organic and commercial production. And it seems like the products are just getting better over time. They've been a nice, consistent company to work with. So we got Brad and we've got Seth, and they're going to introduce you to ProFarm and their products.
Thank you, Dan. I'll hand off to Brad in a little bit. So. You mentioned Marone Bio and Rhizobacter. I started out as a Rhizobacter employee, and Brad started out with Marone Bio. So I was in the inoculants and adjuvants business, and as we merged, we became ProFarm. I'll get into a little bit of the company. So we'll go over who we are, and then some of our key products for this area. Here's Brad over here in the corner. He's our territory and business manager for the Midwest. He's got, what, over 35, 40 years experience as an agronomist and a seedsman. Brian Mueller is our field development manager. He's our crop scientist for the Midwest and the Southeast. And we have a team of about 15 sales support, we call them territory sales managers throughout the U.S. So with this merger, of course me, I'm a 12th generation American farmer. George Little came over in 1640 and shifted, the family moved over to Indiana in 1840 with a bunch of the other Massachusetts folks, and a 5th generation Purdue grad. So I'm an agronomist by trade and a grain farmer, irrigated grain farmer. So with the merger, let's see here. Rhizobacter was founded in 1977 as a soybean inoculant company. They created the first liquid inoculants. If you remember back, a lot of the inoculants were peat-based. They were a powder you dump on top of the seed box. So Rhizobacter was innovative in making a liquid seed treatment. They diversified into adjuvants and fertilizers in the 80s and 90s. So Marone Bio was founded as a biopesticide company, so biologically derived pesticides, fungicides, insecticides, nematicides, etc. And we actually have some biological herbicides in the pipeline. So in the next 3 or 4 years, be on the lookout for an organic. We've got 3 of them in the pipeline right now. So 2 of them are actually very good on Palmer amaranth. So we're excited to bring those to the market. But our focus today will be mostly on biocontrols. So we operate in North America as ProFarm Group, and the rest of the globe are Rhizobacter. We're in 45 countries, 45 years of experience. Annually, about 75 million acres of soybeans, which we expect to easily double now. So we've licensed off our soybean inoculant business to Syngenta, and that will be part of their package. We still do the manufacturing and fermenting of those inoculants, but we have a 23% global market share on soybean inoculants. You might not have heard the name, but you've probably used our Rhizobium. So with the merger, we've completely filled out our portfolio of offerings between insecticides, fungicides, nematicides, herbicides, biostimulants, inoculants, and then we also have a seed business in South America called BioSeries Seeds. It's a soybean, sunflower, wheat germ. We actually have a drought-tolerant GMO event that it's in soybeans and sunflowers currently. Soybeans and wheat. It's a sunflower gene that we inserted into those that would hopefully be available in the U.S. So jump right into Neovo. Dan spoke about Magistine. He's got 8+ years experience with Magistine as an organic insecticide and maticide for in-furrow corn for the organic grower. So we're pivoting into Rhinotech, which is our platform. So basically, what we do is ferment Burkholderia rhinogensis, and that's where the rhino comes from in Rhinotech. Now we can't release live Burkholderia rhinogensis, so we have to kill it. And the old way that we killed it was the old formulation Magistine, and now what we've discovered is we can basically hack the fermentation. The food source, or, the carbon source, if there's sugar or whatever form that is, the pH that we ferment at, and then how we kill the Burkholderia is basically going to express compounds in the fermentation broth that will have fungicidal activity, insecticidal activity, and nematicidal activity. So we can basically create different compounds out of the same fermentation. And then we're selling a stable broth to you. So there's no living organisms in it. It's shelf stable over the years. You don't have inventory management worries. You don't have to have refrigerated storage, etc. So Neovo, compared to Magistine, we are 20 ounces per acre instead of 1 gallon per acre in furrow. And this new innovation really made this, I should back up a little bit. Marone Bio really specialized in vegetable growing and specialty crops. So a lot of their products are targeted towards that niche area, organic vegetable and produce. So now with this new technology, we've made it accessible to the row crop farmer. Still unrelisted, still good for organic farmer, but we have a philosophy we call BioUnite, the power of biology and the performance of chemistry. So with this new innovation, this new formulation, we're as potent as chemical insecticides in a nice, soft, organic form. So below ground pests, we're doing in furrow here, all your Lepidopterus below ground. So your corn rootworm, your white grubs, seed corn maggots, wireworms really strong on it, and then a lot of the pestulant nematodes. So your lance, your needle, your dagger, and then soybean cyst nematode, very effective on those. I've only got corn up here, but this will be labeled for all row crops. Oh, I didn't mention lesion nematodes. And we use bifenthrin as our standard. So what we're adding is the nematode control over bifenthrin. We'll have just as good corn rootworm control as bifenthrin, and we're going to add that extra layer of protection against nematodes. This is just to illustrate, we're right in the heart of it. With corn rootworm pressure, I don't really have to go into this too much. You're familiar. You either have it or you don't. And we're laying over that same area as where we see the most pressure with soybean cyst nematodes. So these are root digs from this summer up in AgriTech in Wisconsin, Tim Maloney's research farm. This is the untreated control. Actually, I think this is bifenthrin. Is that right, Brad? This is treated with bifenthrin. This is Neovo. So we see a lot more root hairs, a lot more root mass, thicker stalks, much better standability at the end of the season. And it translates to yield. So over control, ignore these. These are titrated active ingredient levels. So this would be the 20-ounce equivalent right here. This is what we're recommending. We're getting 20 bushels over control and 3 bushels over bifenthrin at the max rate. Similar, here we're 25 bushels above control and about 7 bushels over bifenthrin captured. Oh, okay, I missed an important asterisk. Pending EPA approval. We were expecting this in July, now we're expecting it in April. So if we don't get this to the market this spring, we'll be able to fall back on old reliable Magistine. And Dan will have that available for you. He'll have either one, and we'll get it figured out to where we treat you correctly on this. So Magistine will do the same spectrum of insects and nematodes, just at a gallon per acre.
We've got the Magistine on order, so we're lucky enough to be, AgriEnergy and ourselves are lucky enough to be distributors for Pro Farm. So when you buy your products from us, you're buying them the same as if you went to the largest retailer in the world, Nutrient, who's probably also a distributor. I'm sure you guys have to make them a distributor. They're the largest.
You're right. We can't ignore them.
But because of our long-standing relationship with them and our use of the product, we're a distributor too. So I know it's very important that we source products as economically as possible and make sure we deliver them to you at the lowest cost per acre. So I just wanted to let you know we're in a great position with ProFarm. We're thankful for them, for their support of us and making us a distributor. I just want to reiterate, this is a game changer for organic corn production. Think about this. It's an OMRI soil applied insecticide that they're comparing to bifenthrin. They're beating bifenthrin in corn rootworm trials with an OMRI insecticide. Game changer. And it costs less per acre than if you put on SmartBox Aztec at a high rate.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is amazing. So for us, we're in organic production, we're creating a green bridge that all of our agronomy professors has told us to stay away from. They said if you create a green bridge, those things that are going to cross the green bridge are cutworms, wireworms, seed corn maggots. Those types of insects are showing up in organic production because we were forced to have a green bridge. We're forced to have that green manure, that cover crop, that I call it green manure, not a cover crop. We're growing that because of the nitrogen. But that brings a unique set of insecticidal problems. And this is a game-changing product. Really should be on every acre of organic corn grown.
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, I'm on a synthetic farm, and I've been poisoned. We raised seed growing up, so we had the insecticide boxes with drives. And I don't know a farmer that hasn't been touched by that. So if you're a conventional grower, you care about your family and your employees, this is green chemistry to protect you from that poison.
Well, by the way, it controls nematodes too. And
Yeah.
and all the other stuff. So
Well, yeah, it's an important point, especially in the Midwest when we're dealing with Palmer amaranth and mare's tail that are resistant. If you have nematodes and corn rootworms and Palmer amaranth, you got to make a choice at planting. Am I going to spray an 8-PPD herbicide or an ALS to get ahead of the Palmer and the mare's tail, or am I going to do counter and get my nematodes? Because there's a 2-week interval between those activities. Now you don't have to worry about that. You can control everything and get done with your planter operation. Let's see, this is just more illustration of yield responses. I think Brad would like to speak to this. Is that mic working?
Yes. Eric and I have evaluated the product each of the last,
That's forward.
Okay. We have evaluated, we've done root digs each of the last 3 seasons. And like Dan was saying, Magistine has performed very, very well. We do stand counts. A lot of times you'll see at least 2% more stand. That's a big deal, especially in organic corn. And then when you start looking at the root systems, in addition to what you're getting from protection with a corn rootworm, there's nematodes everywhere. And they follow the water, so even if you go and test for them with university, if it's a little dry, you may not find as many of them so you might say, well, I don't think I have as many of them. And I went one whole summer doing this when I used to work back on the dark side for American Cyanamid. And we took samples all summer long and with some poor guidance, and the nematodes followed the water down, and we got almost no nematode samples to show up, and thousands of them were taken. So anyway, in addition to the protection of below ground pests, you'll also see some plant health there. And so it is kind of interesting that there's more finer micro roots, and this same Burkholderia technology has fungicide activity. We have another product called Stargus that is in the fruit and vegetable. So you are getting a little bit of benefit there then from some fungicidal activity as well. So enough said there. I'm going to move on then to one of our commercial products that we're really, really excited about. This is a very, very unique product that was actually in the space program of all things. They were trying to grow crops in zero gravity on a space station because they wanted to get some greens growing up there for obvious reasons. And this product performed very, very well. And it's all about abiotic stress. And this product then, in addition to abiotic stress control, is also gives you nutrient uptake. And so we get later in the season, this is mainly a foliar product, kind of like some of the products that you were talking about this morning that bind very tightly to certain other nutrients. This product will pretty much do the same thing. That's why we're not going to recommend this in furrow with high phosphorus or high sulfur, because they bind very tightly. And we did the testing, and we're mainly going to stick in that lane with foliars on this product. Really strong ROIs. There's the crops that it's labeled for. The nice thing about this product is, and we're going to show you tons of pictures here just real quickly so that you can see the kind of results, but we fit on the herbicide pass and also the fungicide pass. That's why it has such a wide window there. And then when you have abiotic stress, it could be herbicides, it could be heat, it could be hail, drought. I wish they wouldn't put these transitions in here. But the long and the short of it is I've actually evaluated the product now for 4 years, and every one of the things that we're showing here that this does, like on soybeans, early in the season, you hold more flowers, less pod abortion. It's all about holding on to pods. So if you can get, 4 to 6 more pods per plant, think about what that kind of yield can be for you. So abiotic stress is a big thing. If we all start out with that opportunity to have hundreds of bushels, and what brings it down every single year? It's something weather related in most cases. So you'll see a larger bean size, more pods per plant. Corn, it's very, very showy in the fact that you get less tip back, deeper kernel set, and then we have better standability then as well. Yeah, there it is. I knew it was somewhere. Anyway, let's just move quickly. Here is a mistake. You always want to say, can you learn anything from your mistakes? Sure you can. This was one of our research locations over at Lafayette, Indiana. It's supposed to be planted into Liberty corn, and the purpose of this trial was to put emergent with Liberty, which sometimes can be a little hard on the corn. This cooperator actually planted Roundup Ready corn, sprayed Liberty on top of the Roundup Ready corn, and the only reason it didn't die is because we were at V4 and the growing point was still below ground. So we weren't very happy at the time because we were going to have a field day at this location. So anyway, as we moved forward 30 days, I kept going out there every couple of weeks because our parent company down in Latin America had been putting it with herbicides for abiotic stress and showing phenomenal results in that regard. So there's the difference in height, and how the corn did not die is beyond me, but you can see that the corn treated with Liberty and Emergent has certainly overcome the stress quite a bit. Now, it still hurt the yield, and I'll show you that here in a minute. This was at our field day, right? Shortly after tassel time, you saw a delay in the maturity on just a straight treated corn with just Liberty. And then I went out after that, wanted to dig up some more roots, kind of see what effect we're having on the root system. So this is a foliar product, but look at the difference in the roots. So it's a very small particle, it gets into the plants, plant, it signals to the plant, hey, a friend's here, come on in. Like a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing. I really enjoyed hearing all about that this morning. But then at harvest, look at the difference in less tip back, deeper kernel set, all the things we just talked about earlier. And there's the difference in yield, 40 bushel. Now, this is a mistake. You're not going to get 40 bushel on your commercial corn. And by the way, this is not OMRI certified, this particular product. When you use dicamba, you get that drawstring effect. If we can get your solar panel, the leaf surface, feeling happy and healthy and not having a bad day, so that it can do what it's supposed to do and put more energy into that pod, that's a big deal. So here is some, we've got a rep up in North Dakota, and he also farms. And kochia is really hard to kill up there. They use a lot of hot, harsh herbicides to get the job done. We went out and sprayed it. The untreated is there on the left. And you can see 2 days after what it looks like with this herbicide plus emergent. It came back that much quicker. So again, you go out there then, X number of weeks afterwards, it says 2 weeks, look at the difference in the height of the wheat. That's makes a significant difference. So that's emergent and really fun product. Early Bird brought that into their program and tested it last year on a significant number of acres. I think they had maybe 10 plus pallets of the product in, so they gave it a really good test, and it's something now that they're bringing forward, and we are in a full launch mode this year, and so it will be available as well. Pace Setter is a fungicide. It's a biofungicide. It is registered with EPA as an EPA establishment number. We're a Group 5 fungicide, totally different mode of action than anything else that's out there. And in organic corn, we're standalone. I've talked to some of you today about that. We use a higher rate there, and then generally in commercial corn, we will use a lower use rate, a half rate, and bolt it onto your current fungicide program, and we'll discuss why here in a second. So it's all about disease control. We do control specific diseases. However, our mode of action is increasing chlorophyll production in the plant, and that's actually the mechanism. It's a biotic mechanism that doesn't allow the disease then to get into the plant as easy. So there's the use rate, 6.5 ounces for the half rate, and then if you're an organic grower and you are looking for a fungicide option, you're going to be using this as a standalone because there really isn't anything else that is as effective. And our timings, if you're going to hit it with one shot, we would go at tassel, BT, plus or minus 10 days. Now, Early Bird has a unique fungicide program that they have developed, and they're in a 2-shot program for all of their customers for the most part. I mean, when that helicopter goes out, it's a V6 followed by a tassel or a R1, R2 type application. R3 is our sweet spot on soybeans. We've already kind of talked about how the product works, but this is an ISR, SAR response. So we actually can help block both of those pathways. And if Brian was here, he'd probably do a lot better job than I have done here with this particular slide, but just know that there's true science behind this jasmonic pathway and also the salicylic acid pathway. So again, we're a Group 5 fungicide. It's all about disease control and plant health. And being a different mode of action, some of the other Group 7 and Group 11 fungicides have a lot of resistance already. So if you happen to be in Kentucky, Southern Indiana, Southern Illinois, you can't control frog eye anymore. So We actually control frog eye. You bolt us on, you can get a brown spot, target spot, frog eye, some of these diseases that, they may seem like lesser diseases, but the other products no longer control them. Here's a list of the diseases that we control. So if you focus on corn, northern gray leaf spot are still a really big deal. So we'll have some. We've got some folders that for each of you, if you'd like to have them, or we can pass them out now. You can look a little more at the diseases. Here's the fun part for me. I'm a certified crop advisor as well. I've always loved being out in the field. Here's some drone footage from southern Illinois, really tough timber clay soil. You spray pace setter. In this case, it was Veltima plus, versus just the fungicide alone. This is the difference you see. So the chlorophyll production that we talked about, just 10 days, you'll see significant differences when you cross these fields. Then at harvest, we keep that plant alive an extra 7 to 10 days. That's a really big deal, but it's only about 0.4 wetter. So I went out and we've tested that as well. So, that keeps a lot of plant health. You keep more kernel depth and less tip back and all of that. So with some of the tough, dry summers we've had in various parts of the country, it's really showing up different. Now, here's some pictures that Eric and I went out and took. And look at the solar panel of the pace setter and emergent, along with Astrobi, and in this case, it's tebuconazole. So you got 3 different modes of action there. And if you got a 1/2 inch wider leaf and that solar panel's bigger, you're putting more energy into the grain. And so look at the pictures of the ears. They fill out better and they're deeper. Here's another field, Deer Creek, really heavy drought stress. You can see there's tip back on both sides of the equation here. However, look at the leaves. They're still bigger and it's still producing more yield. Real quick story, derecho storm a few years ago, northeast Iowa, same hybrid on the left, and that field was wiped out. And but we saw where we had the fungicide plus pace setter, and in this case we put emergent with it as well. It stood better. And I'm not going to tell you that it was tough walking through there. I mean, there's still 20% of that corn down, but it was not a disaster. So some of these plant health products and abiotic stress products like pace setter emergent make a huge difference in your crop and can alleviate some of these disasters, give you more plant health and all the way more harvestability. This is really cool. Ken Feldman used to work for me. He's a consultant now in southern Michigan. Here's a seed corn production field. Detasseled. We went out and sprayed a fungicide, and then we put fungicide, in this case, pace setter and emergent. And I had him stand out in the corn. I didn't even realize it until I got home and looked at these pictures at how big a difference it was. 4 inches of regrowth, is a really something. So 7 bushel more is the expectation on corn over a 3-year average. 4 to 5 bushel on soybeans, above and beyond your current fungicide program in commercial corn. That's what these slides are. Here's what I call the peanut butter and jelly, putting pace setter and emergent together, and gives you another bushel and a half, 2 more bushel. So you can talk to Dan and Eric about these products, and they can fill you in more on cost per acre and all that kind of stuff, and how it might fit into your operations. And I like that kernel depth. And here's some shots over in Indiana that I took this year. And we've already talked about all those benefits, but stress is a really big deal, and I think we all need to take a look at that, and we'll be around afterwards if you have any questions, and certainly Early Bird does a great job with these products, and we're really proud of our relationship with them. One of our finest distributors. I mean, the way they conduct themselves and the amount of integrity that they have, they do, put it this way, I'll just say this, they do everything right. And they will make it right then as well. So we want to thank them for all their support.
All right, thank you, Brad. Probably short on time, so I'll get through this fairly quickly. So I'm also the adjuvant product manager for US and Canada. And I've always had a special spot in my heart for adjuvants because I made some pretty devastating mistakes early on in my career. Burned up some crops by reading the label wrong, and it's really getting in the mindset of why, because we tend to put adjuvants as an afterthought. The label called for it, so I put it in. I went and found the most generic product. But when you get down to why am I using an adjuvant, we touched on a little bit earlier with penetration and the oral boost conversation, but if you think of a leaf is essentially waterproof, whether it's the waxy cuticle or the hairs on the leaf, and water has a very high surface tension. So when you put a droplet on a leaf, it's going to bounce, it's going to shatter, or it's going to roll off. So you need to add an oil or a surfactant. If you add an oil, you have to add a surfactant because oil and water don't mix. So what that does is basically like dissolves like. So you're going to break down the waxy cuticle, and now you've got your water, which is 90+% of what you're spraying, is going to be able to get into that leaf and get your product in. If you have a brand new Corvette, it's an $80,000 car. If you take the free air out of the tire, it's not going to perform the same. So I took the air out of the tire, I still got an $80,000 car, but it doesn't drive very well. So I think of adjuvants as a servant. It comes from the Latin adjuvare, which means to lend aid. And if you treat your servant correctly, he'll treat you back. So be a good master. A good agronomist will pay attention to a high quality adjuvant. Your investment's in the active ingredients. So you need your adjuvant just to help you perform and get your money back on the active ingredients. So everything starts with the water. That's the foundation of everything in spray solution. So it's very important to get your water corrected first. And what we do, traditionally with our Rhizobacter, my parent company in South America, we offer a free water testing service. And you send in the water you use, whether it's well water, lagoon water, whatever it is, and I'll send you back a report that basically shows you how much of your actives you're tying up. You can also give me a list of what you're spraying, and I can show you how much of that is not being used. So I'll give you a custom rate on water conditioner. This is a phosphonic acid, so what it does is, in your solution, if you have high calcium or high magnesium, you need to sequester those ions. So if we're going to try to do that with liquid ammonium sulfate compared to phosphonic acid, if you put enough ammonium sulfate in there to truly sequester that calcium or that magnesium, you're going to make gypsum or Epsom salt, and your pH is going to go below 2, which might be okay in some scenarios. But you're going to grind up your pumps, you're going to block your filters, and you're going to blow out your nozzles. So with this scenario, I just top line here, if you have a 1,000 gallon spray tank and you have very hard water, 184 ounces per 100 gallons of liquid ammonium sulfate equals about 14.5 gallons of liquid ammonium sulfate in that 1,000 gallon tank. 8 ounces of Rhizobacter spray water conditioner per 100 gallons, that's 80 ounces in 1,000. That's 0.6 gallons in that 1,000 gallon tank. So very low use rate. You create chelation, so all those hard water molecules will go into liquid form. They're not going to turn into rocks and salt. Integrum is my favorite adjuvant. This creates a microemulsion with the oil. So I talked about earlier, you need the oil to penetrate the waxy cuticle, and you need a surfactant to keep that oil in solution. So what we do here is, this is a proprietary combination of 7 different surfactants, and we developed it with our MSO. So Rhizobacter is a primary manufacturer of methylated soybean oils in South America, so we have very premium oils. So this surfactant package was designed to blend with our oils, and what it does is it creates such a tiny molecule of oil that it stays homogeneously in solution almost indefinitely. I mixed up a batch. It's on my desk. I can't carry it around because I don't want to shake it up. But I did that in April, and it's still cloudy like this. There's no oil layer on top like you see over here with a conventional MSO. So what we end up with is a high surfactant MSO, very low use rate. I recommend 3 ounces per acre. So what that does is protects you from leaf burn from the oil, and then you have a very high quality surfactant. So this, I position this with really complex tank mixes. So I'm thinking of a conventional grower that's spraying to control palmer and mare's tail. So you're using 3 or 4 different herbicides in one tank mix. A lot of those herbicides don't play together, especially if you're trying to control volunteer corn from the previous season. Clethodim and haloxifop really don't play well with other chemistry. So what we end up doing, some guys will split up and spray their volunteer corn separately because they're not getting efficacy out of that pass if they do it with their broadleaf spray. This top line here, this is haloxifop and clethodim mixed together, so they're already antagonistic. This is them on their own. With a medium quality MSO, you get some performance increase, and with Integrum, you really get an increase in performance. Extremo is another MSO. It's actually the same MSO that's in Integrum, but with a different surfactant. So same use rate. This is 3 ounces per acre, but this is a super spreader. So remember I talked about the bounce and shatter and roll off of your droplet. This is organosilicone trisiloxane. So you think of the hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail is what a surfactant is. One side likes water, one side likes fats. And the way that this molecule is physically, it's very small instead of long and extended. So when you're going from a spray tank to a droplet, your surface area changes. So now, how quickly can that surfactant orient itself in this new surface? It's got all kinds of new surface area because it's a very small droplet. So organosilicones are able to react very quickly and orient themselves in the droplet between the nozzle and the leaf, so that by the time that droplet hits the leaf, it's going to stick and spread really quickly. This is not an organic product, neither is Integrum. And I position this with contact herbicides. So your Liberty, your glufosinate, gramoxone, and then fungicide, same thing. Where you need really good coverage to get good efficacy, add a product like Extremo. I should mention too, all of these adjuvants are in 1 gallon jugs because they're very low use rate. It's very rare that you have a scenario to need more than a gallon in a 1,000-gallon solution. So I don't like empty jugs underneath my sprayer. I don't think you do either. Rhizowet is the OMRI-listed adjuvant that I have. So this is the same surfactant that's in Extremo. This is the trisiloxane organosilicone without the oil. So very, very low use rate. On a percentage basis, I find that most farmers and agronomists hate that volume per volume rate. So I break it down 3.2 ounces per 100 gallons. If you're doing an aerial application, I double that, 6.4 ounces per 100 gallons. That's 2 to 3 gallon per acre. You'll get really good coverage with Rhizowet in the tank. And if you're spraying Oraboost or New Film P already, I would add it to it because this will help them. They have, Oraboost has a citric oil in it. New Film P has a pinene oil that has some other benefits. This will just increase the benefits. And like I said, it's OMRI listed. It's very phytosafe. You won't have any leaf burn concerns. If you're using high volume spraying to address coverage, you can reduce your spray volume by 70% and get equal or better coverage by adding 3 ounces per 100 gallons of Rhizowet. All right, in summary, Emergen-L is not organic listed, but it's a foliar product. We like to position it at herbicide timing. Put it in the tank with the herbicide, especially if you're doing soybeans, things like Cobra and your fomacevins that really burn the leaf. This will prevent a lot of that leaf burn. And then go ahead and throw it in with your fungicide if you have room. It's a very economical product. I'll leave that to Dan as far as pricing goes, but not much more than an adjuvant cost, to put it there. Pacesetter is our fungicide that is organic and OMRI listed. We also recommend it for the conventional acre. Mix it with your synthetic fungicide. They pair really well together. So you're going to get the protection from the paste setter, that response, the ISR-SAR response, that plant's going to set up to not be infected, and then your synthetic fungicide will do the curing. That's going to kill the pathogen. Paste setter is going to keep the pathogen from getting in and spreading, and also give you those crop health benefits. Integrum is my complex tank mix adjuvant. For this crowd, I probably would have put Rhizolite up here as the organic surfactant. And then Neovo, our insecticide and nematicide. So any questions? Let's see, we'll get some folder. I'm pointing a laser over there at it, but we've got some brochures in these folders, as well as Brad and my business cards. But any questions you have, you can direct to Dan and Eric. They've been handling it on the ground for years. And as Dan mentioned, they're not as big as a nutrient, but that really doesn't matter to us. We like to reward loyalty. We came from a small company culture, and we just love the culture at Early Bird, their integrity, and we treat them just as well as we're treated in nutrient, maybe better. So, thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, Seth.